Oh, damn and blast. The paparazzi have caught me reading the Yiddish edition of Pierre-José Proudhon's Was ist Eigentum? Bloody photographers. Hello and welcome to the Friday night stream of the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel, where I'm just randomly reading Proudhon as there's a camera in front of me. As one does, apparently. Especially when one can't find one's edition of Rosa Luxemburg in Yiddish. Hello, hello, hello. So, got off to a bit of a late start. Let's do a bit of a sound check. How am I sounding? Can you hear me fine? And congratulations as well. Won't say for what since it's a public thing, but I just wanted to do so in person. Okay, that's interesting. Miguel Angeles Efe. I guess it's a situation, I mean, the whole Grimes thing, it's a situation we're all familiar with. I mean, you get dumped by a billionaire who's constantly on his bullshit, and so you dress up like Worf's girlfriend and read Marx on a street corner until somebody photographs you. Is there another better way to protect that square that does not involve sticking my queen there? Yes, indeed there is. Okay, mildly irritating. Okay. Fuck balls. Yes, that did successfully manage to fuck up the whole thing that I had set up. But on the other hand, this knight is not getting out of here. How's your week been? Mine too. Okay. I don't actually have the slightest idea what I'm doing here, but I think I'm probably going to come out with a couple of pawns. I've never seen somebody try that trick with queen and knight rather than bishop and knight. That was disconcerting. Is there any reason I shouldn't take that? I don't see one. That seems to be... Still down the equivalent of a rook, but I don't think Miguel Angel has much of an idea of what's going on here either. Which one? The handing me the bishop or the rook, rook d1? Yeah. Well, I think it was a better move than this knight c7 thing, which actually took the pressure off of my pawn there. As long as I keep my king on... Oh! That works. Okay, pinning that light-squared bishop. Okay, are there any more good checks left here? I don't think there actually are. In which case, I can proceed to actually... Yeah, I mean, I don't even think that opening was necessarily a great move. It was just a bad move I had not seen before. And so I did not receive it quite as well as I do when it's the other version of that ill-advised attack. Oh well, and I hung my fucking bishop. That wasn't great either. I was ahead on material, but yeah. Okay. Now, what do I want to do here? Okay, if I go... Yeah, then I'm just... I end up trapping my queen, or more or less it's sort of exchange-sacking my queen, not like that. What I need to do is get some of this pressure off me without trading queens. I'm gonna leave this where it is and just get these pawns on this pawnless king side, queen side going. Yeah, I was considering that, but I don't see a real follow-up there, and then I lose the pin on the bishop. I think I want to put some pressure on that. On there, get these pawns a little bit more advanced, since there's not a whole lot that can be done on that side. And then I can start making more checks. So, I mean, I think the answer, if we do queen g6, then we get rook f2, yeah. Oh, queen g6. Ah, God, I do this all the time. Oh, well, no, you did mean queen g3. Okay, yeah. So we get the rook up there, and we lose the pin, and I don't know I'm ready to give up the pin just yet. That works. Thank you. Actually, do I care about this pawn structure? Actually, I think this works better for me. Yeah, I do the same thing all the time. Okay, threatening mates. And I am ahead on time. I've got 2 minutes to the good on time. I think that bishop's going bye-bye anyway. It's not... I mean, let me see. The best white really has is queen d3, I think. That more or less puts a stop to the whole thing. Will white actually come up with queen d3? Oh, well, that's not bad either. Okay. Okay, that was daft. Oh, bugger. Okay. And let's move over to bull bouncers at reactionaries for a bit. Okay. Actually, already did critical race theory required for private school accreditation. Let's see. Project Veritas exposes critical race theory at Hasbro with James O'Keefe. Oh, we already did the PragerU origin story. That was very much as expected. We've got... Oh, we've got Bill Maher saying that Americans need perspective. That might be worth... and Thomas Jefferson and equality making America. Yes. I think we got a winner there. I think it has to be Thomas Jefferson and equality. I'd love to see how they try to come up with a way to polish that turd.
In one sentence, Thomas Jefferson not only laid the foundation stone for a new nation, he also set that new nation, the United States of America, on a path we still follow today.
And that sentence was the margin note in one of his letters where he calculated that for every child born to the people that he had enslaved, he was making $20 profit. which immediately made him rethink his entire previous fairly hypocritical and purely rhetorical opposition to slavery.
His affirmation in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights may be the most influential words ever written this side of the Bible.
Okay, well, I guess that would be another one, but it doesn't really, I mean, in terms of foundational sentences, it doesn't really explain much about U.S. history. The U.S. has not really been all that keen on the whole equality thing. Well, I mean, even if you do limit it to all men. Let's see.
The U.S. Constitution, ratified a little more than a decade later, was guided by those words. Subsequent amendments, including the 14th Amendment passed after the Civil War, granting equal rights under the law, seem, for all their grandeur, to be restatements of the equality principle in Jefferson's original Declaration.
Never mind, of course, that if they were restatements of something in the original Declaration, then why did it take a civil war to even enact the words into the Constitution, and an entire fucking civil rights movement in roughly a century's time to get the government to even pretend to care about those words?
Yet Jefferson is controversial today because he embodies the contradictions of the founders. Indeed, progressive scholars say he was the worst of them, the most hypocritical.
Yeah, citation needed. I mean, I'm not... I think there's a pretty strong case that he was definitely one of the worst. I mean, just to be clear. But, I mean, they were all such fucking assholes. It's really kind of difficult.
Because the very man who insisted that all men are created equal not only permitted slavery, but himself owned slaves. Did Jefferson not...
Well, and there was that whole bit where he groomed them from childhood for...
See the glaring contradiction between his principles and his practices, between the principles and practices of the infant American nation?
Yes, he did see the contradiction, and he resolved it by no longer opposing slavery.
According to Chief Justice Roger Taney, who authored the notorious 1857 Dred Scott decision affirming slavery in the territories, neither Jefferson nor the other founders could have seriously meant that all men are created equal. They didn't act on the principle, so they couldn't have believed it. Modern progressive jurists such as Thurgood Marshall, as well as historians such as John Hope Franklin have, again with an irony that should not go unnoticed, adopted the Taney view.
Except the thing is, okay, if one has a very sort of ill-tuned sense of irony, I can see how that could seem ironic, but the thing is that it's the same thing that people have occasionally pointed out even today, that when the Fash talk about American values and all this shit, they're not actually all that wrong. They are more accurately describing the values in which the fucking country was founded than liberals who try to kind of polish the turd.
Franklin's words, the founders betrayed the ideals to which they gave lip service. They wrote eloquently at one moment for the brotherhood of man, and in the next moment denied it to their black brothers. No defense of Jefferson or the American founding is possible that agrees with this assessment. How then can Jefferson and the founding itself be vindicated against this most serious charge?
It can't. Okay, that we can just end the video here, I guess. It just can't. There's absolutely no way to vindicate it. It is fucking irretrievable.
For the answer, let's look again at the Declaration and what comes immediately after the statement, all men are created equal. That governments derive their legitimacy from the consent of the governed.
Which is another principle that the founders weren't all that keen on observing, since the governed didn't even get to know what was being discussed during their constitutional convention, and they limited the franchise to basically themselves and their mates.
This is the democracy principle, and it is no less important, no less foundational than the equality principle.
And no less full of shit when it's invoked in the mouths of people like Thomas Jefferson, who didn't believe in it.
With this in mind, let's turn to the practical choice faced by the founders. Progressives say they should have outlawed slavery in the original Constitution.
Well, yes. You're going to argue that they shouldn't have? I mean, knowing Dinesh D'Souza, who is really, really fucking racist, and that has been his main... anti-blackness has been one of the keystones of his career, so that shouldn't be surprising, perhaps. But yeah,
Yet slavery was legal in all the states that sent representatives to Philadelphia in 1789. How could these representatives outlaw slavery without the consent of the people in their states?
Well, what about the enslaved people in their states? Do they get to give consent? Oh, that's right, they don't get to give consent. And Dinesh D'Souza, who's trying to make us think of them as products of their times and all that sort of thing, and clearly, even now, says, yeah, we can just sort of ignore what they might have thought of it. He's like, since, particularly in the southern colonies, there are quite a few where there were more enslaved black people than there were white people with the right to vote. If you took the consent to the governed seriously, there would be absolutely no way you could actually keep slavery legal.
Were they expected to do so by overriding popular consent? In that case, they would...
yeah, look, he's actually doing it. He is literally he's literally dehumanizing the black majorities in a lot of these states.
Be overthrowing democracy itself.
He actually grinned a little.
Popular consent, in that case, they would be overthrowing democracy itself before it...
Well, yeah, see, even he knows that how full of shit he is there. That little grin that he just managed barely to suppress. They'd be overthrowing democracy by listening to the majority of the population in the states, in the colonies where slavery was most heavily practiced. They would be overthrowing the democracy of a constitutional convention that was held in secret without the consent of roughly 90% of the people living in the country.
Was even introduced as the bedrock of the new Constitution. Furthermore, as everyone in Philadelphia knew at the time, many states would not have joined a union that forbade slavery at the outset. Perhaps a few would have done so, but no more. Had those who opposed slavery held firm on the issue, the union would have consisted of a handful of states, or it would have remained a utopian idea.
Which, you're gonna have to actually sell us on that being a bad thing, Dinesh. Because if the alternatives are an autocratic slave state, or maybe just not setting up a nation state at that point on stolen land, I'm actually kind of leaning towards the latter.
Affirmed by a group of high-minded founders, but they would be founders of nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, that, again, I'm not seeing the problem.
As Jefferson himself said about the slavery issue, we have a wolf by the ear, and we can neither hold him nor safely let him go.
What the fuck does that even mean?
It is not reasonable. In fact, it is downright obtuse to ask of statesmen to do what they manifestly cannot do.
Well, they could, as you said, they could have given founding this country with slavery as its bedrock principle a miss. They could have just given it a miss. Is there some reason they had to have all of the... Is there some reason they couldn't have just made it... Okay, first of all, let's just take as read the little bit where we're supposed to pretend that these slave-owning founders actually really would have liked to get rid of slavery. Even Thomas Jefferson changed his mind when he realized how much fucking money he was making off of it. But, so we're supposed to say that, that it's a bad thing for them to possibly have a smaller territory, but at least a territory that can be described as potentially free with almost something approaching a straight face. I mean, how's that a bad thing? It started out fairly small to begin with.
It is only reasonable to ask them to make the best choices available to them under the circumstances, to hold the wolf, in Jefferson's own terms, until he can safely be let go.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, this is like literally, this is the argument, the style of argumentation of liberals today. Anytime you try to suggest that the principles they claim to uphold ought to perhaps be upheld in more than words.
In Abraham Lincoln's view, the American founders did just that. They temporarily allowed slavery in practice while constructing a framework based on anti-slavery principles.
Okay, what the fuck does that mean? If your framework allows slavery indefinitely, to the extent that there actually had to be a fucking civil war in order to put an end to it, but let's leave that aside. What anti-slavery principles is the framework based on if the framework permits slavery and indeed enforces it as the law of the land?
In Lincoln's words, the founders declared the right so that the enforcement of it might follow as fast as circumstances would permit.
Oh god, that's so Patricio Aylwin. This is like after Pinochet left power in Chile. And he was replaced by Patricio Aylwin, a horrible piece of shit who was actually had very large degree of responsibility for the coup in the first place. People started demanding that maybe they should prosecute all these mass murderers who've been running the country for 17 years. And Aylwin said, va a haber justicia en la medida de lo posible. There will be justice to the extent possible. Which in this case meant none of the motherfuckers were going to get prosecuted. They had to wait they had to wait years before any movement on that, and it's still an uphill battle.
Lincoln's interpretation of Jefferson and the founding was echoed by runaway slave and brilliant abolitionist leader Frederick Douglass. Slavery, Douglass said, was merely the scaffolding for the new Constitution.
Oh, it's interesting how we get these verbatim quotes from Thomas Jefferson and Lincoln, etc. But are we
allowed provisionally by Jefferson and the other founders, but with the clear objective that it would be taken down once.
Okay, so we're not actually getting any direct quote. Okay, I'm looking this up. Frederick Douglass, slavery scaffolding. What did he actually say? I don't see anything about scaffold. Okay. Okay. Okay, here's what he actually said. Oh, let me just make... This is actually quoted in the Trotskyist Journal in 1946. The Fourth International. Okay, where's the quote? Scaffolding. Okay, so what he said was, I hold that the federal government was never in its essence anything but an anti-slavery government. Abolish slavery tomorrow, and not a sentence or syllable of the Constitution need be altered. It was purposely so framed as to give no claim, no sanction to the claim of property in man. If in its origin slavery had any relation to the government, it was only as the scaffolding to the magnificent structure, to be removed as soon as the building was completed. There is in the Constitution no East, no West, no North, no South, no black, no white, no slaveholder, but all are citizens who are of American birth. And, yeah, okay, what gets me here is he actually is saying what D'Souza is claiming he was saying, but he still does not give him the dignity of a verbatim quote. But, of course, the thing is, he's also just fucking wrong. Because the Constitution explicitly had the Fugitive Slave Clause. Slavery was in the Constitution. There were words that you would have to change if you were to get rid of it. Specifically, the Three-Fifths Compromise and the Fugitive Slave Clause. So, yeah, I mean, I have to say, usually when I read a quote by Douglas, it tends to be fairly on point about these things, but I think he was being really, really optimistic there.
Since the edifice no longer needed it. Martin Luther King echoed the same...
Oh, well, you know, he didn't say anything about the edifice no longer needing it.
...sentiments in his famous I Have a Dream speech. That Jefferson didn't live up to...
Oh, and Martin Luther King does not get even the dignity of a summary.
His highest values is not in dispute, but to deny his greatness and his indispensable role in the creation of the nation is both narrow-minded and foolish.
Okay, so... But here's the thing, though. The greatness, where's that come from? Okay, we've established that... he was a sexual predator and a slaveholder, and who completely changed his view on slavery, which he never lived up to in the first place, when he realized how much money he was making off of it. So, what's the greatness here? I mean, if you can't find the greatness in things that he did and what he stood for, in his actions, not just his fucking words, where...
His declaration undergirded the Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement, and to this day it remains the anchor of our rights and our democracy.
Actually, no, it really, really doesn't. You cannot rely on the Declaration of Independence in court.
Lincoln, Douglas, and King all understood that Jefferson created the pathway for America...
He didn't say shit about Jefferson in that quote.
...to become a better country than it was at the start. A country in which the glorious idea that all men are created equal is closer to reality than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, that's gonna require a citation, I think.
I'm Dinesh D'Souza for Prager University.
Of course you are. Okay. Turn that off. And let's see, what shall we do now? Got about a half hour to go. More chess, some GeoGuessr. What's your pleasure? Yeah, I did a really good job with the color on this. Came out really well. Gonna do a little bit more rapid and maybe try not to get my ass kicked this time. Rogue Tiger. Okay. Solima variant. Move that pin. Doug Lane? Who's Doug Lane? I feel like I've heard the name, but it's not coming to mind. Okay, let's take a square away from that knight. Well, leaving at that square, that's a bit annoying. Oh, okay. Has he got a YouTube channel? Yeah, Zero Books certainly deserves it. I mean, they still market Gilad Atzmon's, like, racist epic, The Wandering Who. I mean, they lost a whole bunch of halfway decent authors specifically because they refused to take that down. They got really indignant about it, too. Yeah, why not? Let's just trade the fuck down. I've got a nice little pawn structure. Black's pawn structure is scuffed as fuck. We've got we got 2 pawn islands. A bunch of backwards pawns. You just try to get stuff on dark squares, since there's only a light square bishop to worry about here. Oh, time for another pawn island. Love a nice pawn island. Okay, no bishops, that's cool. Okay. Oh, hey, fine. If you see any videos of his that you would like to have the urine removed from, yeah, link me in chat, and I will check those out. That'll be the next thing we do. Okay. Let's activate this king. Yeah, it's fine. I think we can trade down to a pawn endgame. Get this nice little pawn maturity here. There we go. And resign. Good game, Rogue Tiger. Very good game. Okay. Well, let's do that right now. Okay. Switching over. So you said Doug Lane. Not double Ain. Okay. What have we got? Oh, Jesus. Destiny. Is Douglas... Oh, it's Doug Lain. Okay. My Destiny debates Douglas Lane. Okay, that would be... Jesus. Like, almost painful. Let's see... What comes after Critical Theory? Featuring Chris Cutrone? Oh, Christ's balls. Platypus? I mean, like, why do we need him still? Oh, Lane, the crisis of legitimacy. Answering Jordan Peterson on Marxism. I guess why? How about let's let Jordan Peterson go to voicemail on Marxism. How about that? Okay. A Defense of the Concept of the Left by, is that Amy Therese? The Last Marxist Weighs In. That's getting cross, it's not. Oh. Maybe put a space in there. Okay, what have we got? Doug Lane mocks Trump on Sky News. Debating Stephen Molyneux. Jesus. Okay. Is this him? I've never seen what this guy looks like. And no, it doesn't look like it. Or wait. Okay, yeah, no, this does appear to be the guy. Late capitalist blues. Are humans becoming animal? Try to find something relatively short so we have a chance of actually getting through it. Philosophy, ideology, and Mr. Rogers. And the best thing about capitalism. Interview with a RuneScape character, of course. Let's see. Okay, let's try are humans becoming animal. Fuck knows what that's gonna be.
Hello, Zero Books reader.
Try to get this resolution up a bit higher, if that's an option. Yeah, well, no, that's as high as it gets, huh?
In
the hell did he shoot this on?
We're going to stake out a position that is a bit out of fashion. A position that is suspect, even problematic. And we're going to start to do this not by asking a question, but by giving an answer.
Okay. Well, I mean, I have to say, I'm not exactly surprised to hear that someone associated with Zero Books might decide to stake out a position that is problematic.
And that answer is animals. Well, the question that wins $500, the question that goes with this answer, is this. What are humans today?
Well, how does that differ from what humans have been since humans have been there? We are members of the fucking animal kingdom, okay?
Of course, we are animals. We're warm-blooded, slightly hairy, physical creatures. We eat and shit and fuck just like all the others.
Well, okay, this is groundbreaking.
And yet this answer doesn't seem to satisfy.
Well, yeah, because it's fucking trivial. Have you got anything more than that? I mean, you've got 9 minutes and 25 seconds, and we've only gone through 45 seconds. And yes, the manatee is cute,
that
but
try not to be animals. While the rest of nature seems to know how to move, what to eat, how to live, human beings are lost. Perhaps we aren't animals at all, but are some sort of aliens amongst the animals.
Okay.
On the other hand, this idea that we're animals works fine if all we want is to set ourselves within a system of scientific classification. But that's not the only thing we're after. According to the contemporary philosopher Gilles Deleuze, we're not yet animals. Deleuze posits the animal as an aim, or a goal. And not all animals either. Not house cats or stupid dogs. Not workhorses or chickens. But certain kinds of animals. Wolves, for instance, or spiders. These are animals that are becoming. They're becoming animals.
Okay.
That is, it isn't that a wolf is becoming an animal, but rather that a wolf is a kind of animal that is always becoming. One way to try to understand what Deleuze is suggesting,
it would be to maybe offer some level of definition to it. Is that what you're going to do, please?
Is to consider the 19th century French poet Isidore Lucien Ducasse. Consider this.
Complete Isidore Ducasse.
One day, a glazed look in her eyes, my mother said to me, "When you are in bed and you hear the barking of the dogs in the countryside, hide beneath your blanket, but do not deride what they do. They have an insatiable thirst for the infinite, as you and I and all other pale, long-faced human beings do." Since that time, I have respected the dead woman's wish. Like those dogs, I feel the need for the infinite. I cannot satisfy this need. I'm the son of a man and a woman, from what I've been told. This astonishes me. I believed I was something more.
I mean, what gets me about all this, oh, this is a plug for a Zero Books book, is you could, I mean, this is just, you could plug any species into all of that. Like, you could say manatees instead of wolves. Because what the fuck does it mean that a wolf is becoming, and why exactly is another animal not? It doesn't fucking mean anything. Not until you actually nail it down and provide some level of specification, which we still haven't received. I mean, so this is crap.
In his book, Tentacles Longer Than Night, Eugene Thacker explains just how being an animal might amount to something more than being a lost human being set down under a scientific classification. He writes, the core of Maldor's animality is really a spirituality. The spiritual anarchy of Maldor is a direct result of its aggressive, vitalistic animality of forms.
God, I mean, this is just so annoying the way he does this. Because, okay, he's introducing all these concepts, and the trouble with that is if you want to actually hold yourself to a statement that you're making, you have to actually provide some specification as to why you're using these concepts and what they're supposed to mean in your usage of them. And instead he just has these quotes, which I'm sure Deleuze provided some level of specification in his work. From what I've read of his, he tends to eventually get around to it. I've never heard of this other guy, but I imagine if the book is about this animality, that they will probably eventually get around to saying something about what they mean by it. But this guy, he just kind of has these lengthy quotes that could, taken out of context, mean anything and nothing. I mean, it mostly just serves to show that that he thinks he's very clever.
From the Everyday Analysis Collective entitled, Why Are Animals Funny? One of the anonymous members, while trying to answer that question, notes that, at least for the philosopher Hegel, the most central feature of any animal is its mouth. He writes, or she writes, we conceive of the mouth as a central part of the animal because we like to think of animals as driven only by the needs and impulses to eat and drink. What differentiates the human from the animal is that for the human, the mouth is no longer central. The eyes take over as the central feature. They are the marker of culture and of trained, learned behavior rising about the animal. So, if there is a radicalism in laughing at these images, it is that the animal acting human challenges the old idea of humans determining themselves by their tempering of original mouthly animal urges with the socializing power of the eyes.
Okay.
Maybe this is why the animal is so appealing.
That wasn't even enough of a sample for me to work out what language it was, let alone whether I actually understood it, in case you were wondering.
Why it is that becoming an animal is such an attractive prospect. It is not only, or maybe not at all, that we want to retreat back to an oral stage where we can interact with the world narcissistically, eating it all up uncritically and spontaneously. But more importantly, that we are seeking to escape the tremendous pressure that being human places upon us. To be human instead of an animal is to live under constant surveillance.
Last I checked, animals are being monitored fairly heavily as well. I mean, even the ones in the wild, a lot of them have those fucking tags on them. Okay, did I just hit mute by accident? Okay.
In Astra Taylor's 2008 film Examined Life, the feminist philosopher Avital Ronell explains...
Oh. And Notorious Abuser. When was this made? Before or after she got exposed?
To the director that she is suspicious of the promise of meaning.
One thing I want to ask you about is meaning. Is philosophy a search for meaning?
I'm very suspicious historically and intellectually of the promise of meaning, because meaning has often had very fascistoid, non-progressivist edges, if not a core of that sort of thing. Excuse me.
Yes. This is why I am so glad that I did not decide to continue pursuing literary criticism. I had 4 years of that shit at postgrad level, and I lost respect for it within the first semester and spent the rest of the time just trying to come up with an analysis of the institutional structures that would allow such drivel to be treated with such reverence.
So that very often also the emergency supplies of meaning that are brought to a given incident or structure or theme in one's life are cover-ups, are a way of dressing the wound of non-meaning. It's been very devastating, this craving for meaning, though it's something with which we are in constant negotiation. Everyone wants something like meaning. But when you see these dogs play, why reduce it to meaning rather than just see the arbitrary eruption of something that can't be grasped or explicated, but it's just...
Well, surely the first question is, can it be grasped or explicated?
There, in this kind of absolute contingency of being.
What Avital Ronell misses, what she avoids, is how meaning can be objective. That is, to take up her example of the dogs playing, their spontaneous play is actually already structured by evolutionary biology, animal husbandry, architecture, city planning, the history of leisure and the Sunday stroll, and finally her own choice to include some New York purebreds in her polemic against meaning. That is, before Avital can find her moment of open and playful being, a being that eludes definitions by mutating through a process of its own expression, through its own animal spirituality, unconstrained by logocentric or scopophilic human limits, there must first be a world of meaning in place. So this move towards the animal, this desire for the attainment of the animal becoming,
A concept that we're 8 minutes in and we're still no closer to receiving any kind of explanation of what the fuck he means by it.
Is a move away from the depths of our responsibility as humans, but is not a move away from meaning. Instead, it is a way to naturalize and so obscure our view of the meanings and structures we produce and reproduce
He really likes these pyramids with eyeballs in them.
every day.
That's been all
Finally,
over this thing.
As Trump takes the Oval Office and the UK prepares to leave the EU, as the far right has its moment and begins to exert itself here and there across the globe, our task will not be to retreat into animal otherness or becoming animal, but rather to live with the responsibility of being human.
Okay. So, through all of this, the one bit that actually could have some practical utility for a discussion about something of fairly urgent contemporary matter. It's like a couple of sentences at the very end that are just ultimately just fucking platitudes.
But there are some problems, and this is going to be the heart of the course, about which a deflationary view is hard to take, and one is our view of ourselves as selves, our own self-reflective view about what we are as human beings, what is our place in our society, in our world, and more importantly, maybe, what is our place vis-a-vis our commitments, our stations in life, our
Okay, who is this guy?
roles as husbands, wives, fathers, and I guess today to be absolutely correct about everything, significant others, dogs and cats, whatever.
Okay. Oh, well, that was perfectly timed. It is 1 minute until 1 a.m., which is when I have to wrap up. And is this... Okay, before I go, though, can you tell me, is this par for the course with this guy? Is this the sort of stuff that I will find if I, like, mine his videos? Is it all going to be this? Or are we... going to does he ever like dial the pretentiousness down a bit? Well, I suppose I will have to look into him a little bit more, maybe see if we can add some of his stuff in, yeah, have some on my reaction fodder playlist, perhaps for tomorrow and coming weeks. And since it is now 1:01, I'm just going to wrap it up for tonight. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at the same time. 11:30 Eastern Daylight Time, unless I end up a little bit late. In my defense, it was a very good episode of A